Join us for a very, very special episode today of Books with Bridgetti. We've got the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Simon Macdonald, the globally acclaimed chef, TV personality, and now author of the enchanting children's book, A Rhyme in Time. So, join us as we explore the culinary and literary worlds colliding in Simon's fascinating journey from the kitchen to the pages of whimsical poetry. Authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors and talented indie authors. Buckle up for an unparalleled journey with us. Meet exceptional authors celebrated globally for their captivating narratives. Our authors craft imaginative stories that stay etched in your mind long after the final page. It's not just stories, it's lingering experiences that stay etched in your mind. Our authors share the inspirations that create mesmerizing page-turning stories. Journeys that embody resilience, that turn setbacks into stepping stones, rejections that spark growth, and hurdles that become a catalyst for creativity. From dramas, mysteries, fantasies, children's stories to reality stories, join us as we delve into the inspiration behind the story, discover how authors breathe life into characters, and meticulously craft plots that keep you turning the page. But wait, there's more. We share stories from indie authors as well as Amazon and New York Times best-selling authors. Get ready for an interview that'll have you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned. Join us only on Books with Bridgetti.
If you have just joined us, you are watching Books with Bridgetti. Our amazing guest today is Simon Macdonald. He's from the Scottish West Highlands. He's a globally acclaimed chef, a TV personality, and witty after-dinner speaker. And beyond cooking for royalty and presidents, he's penned a charming children's book called A Rhyme in Time, which is what we're going to be talking about mainly today. So, welcome to the enchanting world where culinary mastery meets storytelling magic. And let's welcome Simon to come and join us, shall we? Simon, welcome. So happy to have you on the show. How's the weather on your end of the world?
Well, it's surprisingly good today. We've had so much rain. I mean, this winter has been absolutely incessant, but today it's beautiful. Lovely, brilliant sunshine on the west of Scotland. This is what I would have expected in South Africa.
Wonderful. So for viewers who don't know, you tell me you've actually spent some time in South Africa. Tell me a little bit about that. Just a little bit.
Yes, I love South Africa. I lived there for 5 years in Knysna on the Garden Route. Beautiful town, full of Scots. I reckon there are more Scots living in Knysna than there are in Scotland now. I mean, every other person I met is a Scot, and there's so many Scottish place names there, and right throughout South Africa as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, and I've made many lifelong friends from there as well, and got so much inspiration from my work.
Wonderful. I'm so pleased. Every now and then on the show, I get to meet authors who has been to South Africa, and always lovely to meet them. Now, with your diverse background in cooking, television, and writing, how do you juggle all these different creative pursuits?
Well, I bet I've got more hats than you have. I mean, I have to wear enough hats probably to set up a milliner's shop, because I've got my culinary side, I've got my writing side, the television side, and also a sort of mainstay as well as work which I do in consultancy and fisheries and aquaculture and food processing as well. So it's quite a melting pot. It means I never get bored. I just don't have time to get bored. But managing your time is crucial in life.
I can well imagine when you juggle so many balls at the same time, and being in the kind of industry where you are, dropping one of those balls in the creative space can be quite a big deal. So managing your time well is important. Can you tell us about a moment from your culinary or TV career that inspired one of the story or an illustration in A Rhyme in Time?
Well, that's actually quite an interesting and an extremely complex question, because each thing I do gives inspiration for the next, and so it goes on. So it does become quite a melting pot, and it keeps all those balls up in the air as well. I drop one, I'm in desperate trouble trying to find it again, but I enjoy it. And I think the secret of it all as well is, that I don't get bored. I don't get time to be bored. I love every second of it, and I look forward to a Monday morning. And I always reckon, if you don't look forward to a Monday morning, for goodness sake, change your career or retire or do something else as well. That life's a blast. It's here to be lived. It's here to be enjoyed. So you get out there and give it your best.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Oh my goodness. And how does your experience with food and fisheries influence the themes or characters in your nursery rhymes? Have you woven that in somehow?
Yeah, there's actually in a lot of the nursery rhymes which I've written, there's a lot of reference to fish and to the sea and to waters and to animals as well. I mean, I love animals, and I love learning about animals all the time as well. This was one of the great things when I went out to South Africa. Your wildlife there, I'm not talking about the city wildlife, there's plenty of that goes on, but the out in the bush, the wildlife is quite extraordinary. And I remember going to the Lalabela Game Reserve, one of my earlier days in South Africa. And it was actually almost a life-changing experience. Encountering these animals in their natural habitat, doing their own thing. A lot of people, you'll go to a zoo and you'll see a giraffe, you'll see elephants or whatever. It's really not the same as actually being out there in the bush and seeing them. In particular, when you've got a good ranger who is like encyclopedic knowledge of all that goes on there as well. Amazing experience.
Simon, now talking about connections and how you intertwine things, and could you maybe share a surprising connection between marine management, your marine management expertise, and your creative process in A Rhyme in Time? Is there a connection there?
Well, I mean, in marine management just now, because we've got climate change, so everything is changing all the time. Everything is evolving. And so you've got to be creative in whatever you do, and particularly in marine management, because there are new concepts, new ideas, new things happening out there all the time as well. Species are moving on to colder waters from here, but we've got warmer water species starting to move in as well. So the management of the fisheries there, you've actually got to be very creative with it. But you've got to work with the fishers, and it's the same when writing as well. When I'm writing in A Rhyme in Time, I'm trying to do it from the child's perspective. I had a lovely childhood, and it was a really great childhood, and I thank my parents for giving me such a lovely and wild childhood as well. In fact, I've got to thank my parents for having me, I suppose. But the creativity, sort of merges from one to the other, and writing, and trying to do it from the child's perspective as well, involves a different thought process. And basically, a great lesson in life is think outside the box. It's a common term that's used, but it works.
There was a gentleman I interviewed maybe towards the end of COVID, and his philosophy was not having out of the box thinking. He said, throw the box away.
Well, that's actually very good advice. I think it really is. It's a very good advice. I'll remember that one.
and that kind of stuck with me when I was listening to you now.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yes, that's a cracker, as they would say.
So what was the inspiration behind not only writing a rhyme in time, but illustrating it yourself? Because that doesn't always happen. There's lots and lots of children's authors, and they will write the story but not illustrate it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've always enjoyed doodling about and drawing and painting and so on. Sadly, I don't get too much time to do it now, but it's doing the illustrations for the book. It was great escapism. I mean, writing the poems and the nursery rhymes themselves was escapism, but actually doing the artwork for it was just, I really enjoyed that. It was such therapeutic and solve all the problems of the world while you're doing it sort of thing. And the inspiration just came from the lines, and then the lines gave more inspiration back again. So it sort of worked both ways, and a lot of fun doing it as well. And I think if it became a task and seemed like hard work, then it would take the enjoyment out of it. And if you take the enjoyment out of it, you're actually going to take a lot of the magic out of it as well. So this is why I had great fun doing it as well. And and for subsequent writings which I'm involved in just now as well.
Wow. And how does your love for sailing and the Scottish Highlands come through in the imagery of A Rhyme in Time?
Yes, well, the Scottish Highlands, it's my birthplace, and it is a very inspiring place. It's you look out here on the west coast in particular, where you've got all the beautiful sea lochs and the islands, and the crystal clear waters, and the mountains as well. And I always say this is the place where the hills bow down to the sea. And when you look at them, it's exactly that. You get this landscape, and it's just bowing down into the sea as well. And the two will merge together, and one relies on the other as well. So it all goes to the inspiration for writing. And my sailing, I love sailing. I've been passionately sailing since I was about 4 years old. I've gone sideways ever since, I think. So yes, I really enjoy that. It's again, it's exhilarating. It can be pretty hard work. I used to do a lot of yacht racing as well. And I remember going to see my doctor one day at something, and he said, well, what do you do for exercise? And I said, well, I sail. And he said, no, but what do you do to keep fit? I said, I sail. And he looked at me, sort of questioningly. So I said,
clearly not a sailor.
I said, I'm short of one crew from a race boat for Monday night. I want you to come out and see for yourself. So he said, oh, well, excellent. So he toddled out, and expecting, the life of Riley lying back in the boat and so on. Well, after we had quite a tough going race, and he got back ashore, and I said, I will never ask what you mean by exercise again when you say sailing. It took him about a week to recover from it. It's a very, very energetic sport, but very immersing. You just get totally immersed in it as well. And the concentration value is quite phenomenal too. So again, it's another thing. You come off the boat, and you actually almost wonder what happened from that moment you get onto the boat to the moment you get off the boat, because you are concentrating, focusing so hard on the task in hand. But again, it's all inspirational.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, when it comes to marketing your book and talking about your book, it's an aspect that most authors are often uncomfortable for and not quite prepared for. Because a common misconception is that once your book is out there and it's on the shelf, it's going to jump off the shelves and sell itself. But many an author will tell you they quickly discover that's not the case. You actually
No,
have to
it's
market it. So carry on.
yeah, no, I mean, marketing is a sport and hobby to me as well. I mean, I had a business, food business, smoking food a number of years ago in a very remote part of the West Highlands. Now, when I say it's a remote area, it would cost me it would cost me 10 litres of petrol to go and buy 5 litres of petrol. So, I mean, that's pretty remote. And the population of the village was about 23 people. But I built this business up in a fairly short space of time. So I was supplying from Beverly Hills in the west to Tokyo in the east, quite literally. And we supplied into royal households and US presidents. There was 3 of them had my product. We supplied Concorde up to the day she stopped flying, and so on and so on and so on. So marketing, you've got to, you can't stop. You've got to keep going at it. And taking a step back is actually taking a lot of steps back. Standing still is taking 2 steps back. So you've got to move forward all the time. And with my marketing side of it as well, I enjoy doing that. And I remember I was in 1994 and 95, I think it was. I actually won the Scottish Marketing Awards with my product. And I was the only company to actually be doing this without the services of a marketing agency. So my name was absolute mud with all the marketing agencies, because they said, "Why can you do this? And we're professional companies. So and you come along and encroach in our territory and so on, and you walk away with the top prizes." So I thought, well, it's because I enjoy it, and because I believe in what I'm doing, and I have a product there which I strongly believe in, and I know where I want it to go, and I make it happen. So yeah, you've got to market all the time. I know some people do feel uncomfortable with it, and and I've come across this as well with other authors as well. They say, well, it's getting the book out there. If you've got a good publisher who can do the marketing, then great. I said, but no, I like to get out there and do that sort of thing myself. So here we are, and Rhyme and Time is it is still there and still selling.
I'm going to let me put you on full screen for a second and just hold up that cover, because it truly is absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful cover.
There we go. Whoops. So that's it. That's
gorgeous.
And illustrations inside.
I love it.
There we are. There's again, I did all the illustrations myself, and the which page over there we are, and the poem there as well. In fact, I'll read that one out to you if you like. It's called The Letter, and it starts.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Dear Granny, I went with Mummy to see London Zoo, and I saw there a panda and a big kangaroo. There were lions and tigers and a grizzly bear, hippos and camels with raggedy hair, sea lions and penguins and chimpanzees too. What a wonderful day I had at the zoo. Love, Ailish. And there's 3 kisses as well. So I sort of did it from Ailish's perspective, how she would see it and how she would write the letter and what she saw on the day out there as well. So that's sort of typical of the sort of thing which I do.
Wonderful.
And have so much fun doing it.
How do you use your television presenter skills to engage your audience when you promote A Rhyme in Time?
You've got to make them enjoy it, and they've got to see you're enjoying it as well, and and that you believe in it, and you just tell it as it is. But you've got emphasis to put on certain words and so on as well to make it be seen. On television, you've got to speak that little bit slower. You see so many people going on for the first time, and they're talking like a machine gun, and you actually sort of lose track of what they're saying. So you do have to speak slower than you would normally do. So if you've prepared a a script for yourself as well, which can be quite daunting because it's how you put that script across. Then you think you read it through to yourself several times over, and you get the timing down to 6 minutes, say, and then you go on to the screen to do it. And if you are doing it at the correct pace, that 6 minutes will actually take about 8 or 9 minutes. So you've got to slow down to allow the words to absorb through.
Absolutely agree with you totally there. Now, looking back at your, very interesting and varied career, what would you say are the similarities between cooking, being a television presenter, and now being a children's author?
One word: creativity. Each thing you're doing is creating, be it creating words, creating food, or creating entertainment, creating interest. And that's the tie between each of the three.
Wow, that I think basically sort of nails it, because it's all still within the creative space, different aspects, but it's still within the creative space. Do you have any anecdotes or special moments that you've had with a young reader that's influenced the way you tell your stories in A Rhyme in Time?
Well, A Rhyme in Time has only been recently launched, so we probably haven't had a chance yet to get some real belters of stories coming back. But it's just lovely. I've had so many people who've bought the book, and they've got back in touch with me to say, the kids love it. They're mesmerized by it. And there's one even sent, in fact, there were 2 or 3 sent short videos of, Granddad sitting there, and the kids are on the knee, and he's reading the some of the poems to the kids, and they're just looking enthralled. And there was one there where the kids were looking slightly puzzled because he was talking too quickly, I think, and slightly sort of monosyllabic. So that they didn't quite get the gist of it. But there was the one that stood out, and and the children were just absolutely in raptures with it as well. And he read it so beautifully to them as well. And I felt really quite chuffed about this. Seeing this being done, and I thought, yes, it's working. I'm giving pleasure to other people, and that gives me the greatest kick in life I could possibly ever have, and that is seeing other people enjoying what I've created, be it in food on the plate or in words in the book.
I know, just getting a heartwarming smile from somebody when they hold a book in your hand just melts your heart, and it makes you feel like you've done something right. Do you have any plans to use your background in cooking and television to promote literacy through writing?
Sure. Well, I mean, the number of people that have asked me to write cookery books, I've lost count of them. And writing a cookery book is so difficult because you don't know where to start. When writing the nursery rhymes, that's great. There's a nursery rhyme, that's that page, and that's that page, and then you sort of put them in an order which makes sense. But when you're coming to doing recipes, I've got thousands of recipes, and the more I get, the harder it is to decide which one's going to go into a book and how it's to be presented. And the great thing with recipe books now as well, it's the visual aspect. So, in a recipe book, you have to have a top-class photographer to photograph food. And food photography that's an art form in itself. So the thought of writing a recipe book just now is really quite daunting. I've got another book underway at the moment. It's actually with the publishers, and we're getting through the awful stage of the editing. That's the one side I don't like, because the publishers have got their ideas and they know how it goes. and I'm pretty new to this game, really. So I've got my own ideas, and my publishers have been so inspiring. They've given me some tremendous tips and ideas and how to bring the whole book to life. And it's not another children's book. This is more for grown-ups. It's actually a factual book based on the diary of my father from during the Second World War in around the time of the Battle of Cassino. And I've got his original notes, which on the field he was writing it as he went along, and whatever scraps of paper he could get. So trying to decipher the notes was one major hurdle. But got to that stage, and then got to find out all the sort of things that he can do and he can't do. I mean, like mentioning names without permission of the people, and unfortunately, most of the people are no longer, because Battle of Cassino was 80 years ago this year. So it's proven quite a challenging one, but it's a really interesting one, a really fascinating one. And I've been getting so much backup help as well from from Regimental Museum, have been tremendous help in it as well. So I've got that one, and I've got another one in mind as well to follow on, which again will be somewhat different again. It might actually be easier to do, but I won't reveal anything about that one just now. But I have been taking or been given some advice on it, and the person I've been speaking to is very enthusiastic about it. So I thought, oh great, this has got to work. So I've got my future mapped out already.
It certainly seems that way. And, I was listening to you talking about writing a cookery book and how different that is, all the different nuances that goes into a good cookery book. It is a lot of work. And I'm glad that you talked about the challenges in creating a good cookery book, the fact that you need a specialist photographer. It's a very lengthy process of doing something like that.
The
Any idea?
the other factor that comes in as well in writing a cookery book, food. It's a bit like the fashion world, because recipes go out of date. I mean, prawn cocktails, very 1970s type of dish. The traditional, finely chopped up iceberg lettuce, so that stuff should have been banned long ago, and the Mary Rose sauce, and a few prawn tails in it, and it's in a Paris goblet glass, and so it's so 1970s. There are people trying to make it come back again, but you've got to put a pretty clever twist on it to make it just that little bit different. So food trends come and go, just like fashion as well. So that's a factor you've got to take in. And recipes which I've got, I mean, looking through them every so often, I think, yeah, I love that recipe and it's a great one, but it's just not in vogue now. It's not fashionable. It's not trendy. So it's an evolving. The culinary world is evolving all the time.
Yeah, goodness me. I really look forward to that. Do you have a particular timeline in mind for when your book may get published?
This next one, with my father's diary, I'm wanting that has to come out this year, because this is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Cassino and the fall of Rome. So it's got to be done this year. So no pressure.
I've got a particular passion for those kind of stories, because I think it helps families keep the legacy alive. And I've come across an organization who does this by having an engaging conversation with a person, and then putting together a book. But it's a year-long process. But it was an interesting thing that you mentioned, how you've got your dad's notes, and how a lot of people are no longer alive, so you can't go and ask them for permission to use what he'd written. So it's not as straightforward as one may imagine when you recounting someone's life, that you can no longer go back and fact check or ask permission, etc., etc. So it does heap quite a responsibility on one when you are recounting someone's life story. So yeah, I would really like to see the finished product and have you back on the show once you've done it.
Yes, indeed. Oh, well, I'm delighted to be here. Yes, but yes, it is. This has been really quite a daunting thing. I mean, the framework was there because I've got all the diary notes which he'd written, and I mean, incredibly descriptive, very harrowing at places. But then there's the odd little humorous bit that creeps in as well. In one instance when there were they're out in a patrol through the night, and they're crawling through the undergrowth and so on, and just behind enemy lines, and then there was something moved next to them, and of course everybody just froze in absolute panic, and then there was another movement as well, and it turned out to be a baby donkey. So he put a muzzle over this baby donkey and took it back and presented it to the commanding officer of the battalion. And said, "You deal with it." So I don't know quite what the commanding officer's viewpoint might have been at that time, but it was a tense moment reading, and then this great sort of relief of it. Okay, it's just being a baby donkey, but it was actually, it takes on quite a humorous, facade in that particular extract. So, yes, and it also get clearly illustrated. And every time I read it, I just thought what these people went through at that time was just unimaginable.
It absolutely is.
Pretty horrific, and they just amazing, an amazing generation. Really was.
Simon, do you have any plans for turning A Rhyme in Time into a series of books or writing a sequel?
Oh, that has been suggested as well. I'd like to do it. But when you do something like that, when I wrote A Rhyme in Time, I actually wrote it quite a few years ago, and it lay in a cupboard, basically, because I didn't, I sort of thought, well, I did it, and that was it, and did it for the grandkids. And then it was just not that long ago, last year, and I was reading it just by chance to a friend involved in television, who is an award-winning author as well. And she said, "You've got to get this published." And I said, "I don't even know where to start." So she says, "I've got a good publisher. I'll put you in touch with them." So an online meeting was set up, and I read a couple of the nursery rhymes to them, and showed them up to the screen with a couple of the illustrations which I got. And they said, "We have to have this. We have to publish this for you. It is just enthralling." So I thought, oh, right, okay, well, we have got something here. So they guided me all the way through it, and helped me along. They did a fantastic job for me, and so that was Norns Triad Publications in America. So I'm so pleased with the work they did. They're a lovely team to work with as well, and it's more like a family than dealing with the business. So it made the whole job so much more pleasurable.
How did you connect with Norns Triad Publishing in the States, if I may ask? Because I always find that interesting. I mean, I know the world is a much tinier place than it used to be, but how did you find them?
Well, because I have a regular slot on USA Global TV on the Wednesday afternoon on the UK News and Culture show, and co-host on the show, Diane Floyd-Bame, who herself has written so many books, and she's a lovely person, Diane, as well. And it was her. I'd read this too, and she said, "We've got to do it. You've got to do it." So she made the introductions, and the rest, they say, is history. So that's it. And so they've done a lot of put a lot of effort into the marketing of it as well. And I've put my own tuppence worth into the mix as well to sell it, and it's doing very well. I'm very pleased.
I've heard very good things about them, because one thing you need to know is that, like with everything else, not all publishers are equal.
Yes.
You do have to do your homework. My co-host on the other author's show, uh, herself went through very challenging times, with publishers, and she happens to be with the same one as that you use now, Norm's Triad. But I actually did an interview with her about the publishing process and how a bad experience, and she had one after the other with the publisher, and that can really place a damper on you as an author. And how do you remain resilient through that process? So it's very important that you do your homework
Oh,
before
yes.
you decide on a publisher.
I know exactly who you're talking about as well, and she has given me so much encouragement as well, and so much help, and because she's all part of the Norns family, and Norns don't have a huge number of writers on their list, but they're very carefully selected and very carefully picked out. And so we all get on well together, and we have 2 or 3 times a year we'll have an online chat together as well, and just throw ideas across the table, and it helps enormously. I've learned so much from doing that. Self-publishing, I know there seems to be more and more people going down the route of self-publishing. That's quite a scary route to go down, I think, and in particular in the early stages of your writing career. Do I call it a career, or do I call it a hobby? It's because it's so enjoyable. It's far too enjoyable to call it a
Could
career.
be both. It could be
Yes.
both.
Yes, it's far too enjoyable to be called a career, though. I think, when you mention career, then you're going down the route of, hard work and 9-to-5 jobs and so on like that. That just doesn't enter my vocabulary at all. The other thing that doesn't enter my vocabulary is a word I don't know what it means. There's a very small word. It is 2 letters. One is N and the other one is O, and I find that a very difficult word to comprehend.
Yes, it is. If Simon, if you could share one message with readers out there about the importance of embracing creativity, what would that be?
Understand your subject, what you're writing about. I presume we're talking about writing just now. So understand and have a good in-depth knowledge of what you're writing about. Because sure as guns, there's somebody else out there who's probably got an even greater in-depth knowledge, and they're just waiting to pick you up on anything you haven't got sorted out right. So I think that's where a rhyme and time actually comes in quite handy, because it's children's nursery rhymes, and we all know the Baa Baa Black Sheep and those ones as well. And there's room for an awful lot more. And I suppose there is a formula for doing nursery rhymes, but from that formula, I have to look at it from the child's perspective. As I mentioned earlier, that's the way to do it, and that's the way I do it. And nobody's criticized me or pulled me up for having that attitude for it. So it seems to work. So there we are. Hit it lucky first time.
Oh my goodness, Simon, this has been a blast, and I cannot wait to have you back again. And when your next book is when your next 2 books are published.
Oh goodness! I'll have a long grey beard and be hobbling around with my stick. That's how it feels at the moment.
Well, you've got a deadline on the one. That much we know. It has to be done this year.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So definitely would love to have you back on Books with Bridgetti once you've got that in the bag.
It would be an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming. can you hold up your book one last time and just give the audience a view of that beautiful, beautiful cover of
Yes,
A Rhyme in Time, beautifully illustrated?
yes. And
Um,
the cover design there, it is actually a bit of a collage of two or three of the nursery rhymes in the book. So there we are, and it's simply done. Yeah, if you're doing a book like this, don't overcomplicate it. I mean, there's no blank pages there, and I've just pulled one up. But just keep it nice and simple like that, and a few illustrations to attract the mind, because children in particular, I mean, they're very visually orientated, and they will look at the pictures before they look at the words. So if mum or dad or grandma or grandpa's there reading the poem, and the child is looking at the picture and then creates that association in their mind, and it draws the child into the poem itself, and so they understand it far better then. And what I've discovered as well, that the children, they're learning the words by looking at the pictures as well, and having the words read to them, and they can associate it with it. So that's how I like to do it.
I forgot to ask you one question. What age group are you targeting with A Rhyme in Time?
I'd say from about 4 months to 100 years. Maybe
Anybody,
even earlier, 4 months.
that covers anybody and everybody, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think that there was one couple who had bought it, and I knew them. They said, "Well, we bought it for the grandkids, but they're not allowed to take it home. We're keeping it here because we love it." So I thought, right, that's fine. That's that struck a chord. So yeah, so it appeals to all ages. It's not just to young children; it's to old children as well. And I mean, old children up to the age of 100 or more.
Well, when you think about it, we're all children, regardless of our age. It's just a number anyway.
That's it, yes. Well, I mean, I always regard the age as a number that just denotes the amount of experience you've got, and that's it. Yeah. The nice thing.
I'm 15 with a couple of years experience.
Yes. Well, once you reach a certain age, you can get away with the sort of things which you could actually get away with as a child. But it's the bit in between you don't get away with it. So, oh yes, roll on the later years as well. You can get away with absolutely everything then.
I know. I saw a lady on TikTok the other day, and she was calling herself a queenager, and I thought, I think I'm going to steal that one.
That's a good one. Yes, I like that.
Oh my goodness. Simon, this was a blast. I really look forward to having you back on the show with us again. And to everyone who's joined us live, thank you so much for keeping us company and enjoying the conversation about A Rhyme in Time. Stay tuned, and we'll see you back on the next episode of Books with Bridgetti. Until then, take care and goodbye for now. Thank you for joining us on Books with Bridgetti. Join us next time for industry experts and award-winning authors.
I think this might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months. And this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids like to teach called bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It's fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
Available wherever great books are sold near you.